In the rolling hills of Tennessee's Cumberland Mountains, where morning mist clung to ancient ridges and the sound of rifle fire echoed through valleys, Alvin Cullum York learned to shoot with deadly precision long before he ever imagined pointing a weapon at another human being. Born December 13, 1887, in a two-room log cabin in Pall Mall, Tennessee, York grew up in a world where marksmanship was essential for survival, hunting skills put food on the table, and every shot had to count, because ammunition was precious. "Boys got the eye," his father William York would tell neighbors, watching young Alvin consistently hit targets that other mountain men found challenging. "Never seen anyone shoot like that natural-born." By 1917, when America entered the Great War raging across Europe, 30-year-old Alvin York had become legendary throughout Fentress County for his shooting ability. Local competitions were hardly contests when York participated. He could consistently hit a turkey's head at distances that left other marksmen shaking their heads in disbelief. "Alvin don't miss," observed his friend, Gracie Williams, who had witnessed countless demonstrations of York's uncanny accuracy. "Seen him put 5 shots through the same hole at 100 yards with that old rifle of his." But despite his remarkable skills with weapons, York had undergone a profound religious transformation that made the prospect of military service deeply troubling to his conscience. In 1915, York had experienced a powerful religious conversion during a revival meeting led by traveling evangelist H. Russell. The wild young man, who had once been known for drinking, gambling, and fighting, was transformed into a devout member of the Church of Christ in Christian Union, a pacifist denomination that taught violence was fundamentally sinful. "I ain't gonna fight," York told his pastor, Rosier Pyle, when his draft notice arrived in June 1917. "The good book says, 'Thou shalt not kill,' and I aim to follow that commandment." Pastor Pyle supported York's position completely. "The church teaches that war is wrong, Alvin. We must love our enemies, not destroy them." York's draft notice, received at his humble mountain home, created a crisis of conscience that would torment him for months. "Uncle Sam wants me to go fight the Germans," he told his mother, Mary York, while holding the official document. "But my church teaches that killing is wrong, no matter what the reason." Mary York, a deeply religious woman who had raised 11 children in poverty but with strong moral principles, understood her son's dilemma. "You got to follow your conscience, son, but you also got to consider your duty to your country." The conflict between religious conviction and patriotic duty would nearly tear York apart emotionally. When York appeared before the local draft board in Jamestown, Tennessee, he formally requested classification as a conscientious objector based on his religious beliefs. "I can't in good conscience take up arms against other men," he explained to the board members, many of whom knew his reputation as one of the finest marksmen in the region. Board Chairman Judge J.P. Bradford studied York's application carefully. "Alvin, your church's position is well known, but your country needs men like you. Are you absolutely certain about this decision?" York nodded firmly. "Yes, sir. My faith teaches that violence is wrong under all circumstances." However, York's application for conscientious objector status was denied by the board, which ruled that his denomination was not among those officially recognized as pacifist by the federal government. "Your church isn't on the approved list," Bradford informed York. "You'll have to serve like every other able-bodied man." York left the courthouse deeply troubled, knowing he would soon face military service that contradicted his fundamental beliefs. "Don't know what I'm going to do," he confided to his friend Everett Delk. "Can't fight my conscience, but can't fight my country neither." On November 15, 1917, York reported for military training at Camp Gordon, Georgia, carrying his few possessions in a battered suitcase and his conscience heavy with unresolved conflict. The training camp, bustling with thousands of young men from across the South, represented everything York's religious beliefs opposed, preparing men to kill efficiently and effectively. His company commander, Captain E.C.B. Danforth, Jr., quickly recognized both York's exceptional potential and his moral struggle. "Private York, I understand you have religious objections to military service," Danforth said during their first interview. York replied honestly, "Yes, sir. My church teaches that killing is wrong, and I don't see how I can reconcile that with being a soldier." Danforth, an educated and thoughtful officer, decided to work with York rather than simply ordering him to abandon his beliefs. "I respect your convictions, York, but I want you to consider something. Sometimes we must fight evil to protect innocent people. Think about it." York agreed to consider the captain's words while proceeding with basic training, though he remained deeply conflicted about his situation. His exceptional marksmanship skills became evident immediately during weapons training, where he consistently outshot seasoned instructors and experienced hunters from across the regiment. Sergeant Harry Parsons, the company's weapons instructor, had never seen anything like York's natural ability. "Private York, where did you learn to shoot like that?" he asked, after watching York put every shot into the bullseye during rifle qualification. "Just hunting back home in Tennessee, Sergeant," York replied modestly. "Had to put meat on the table for the family." Parsons shook his head in amazement. "Son, you're the finest natural marksman I've ever encountered. The Army needs soldiers with your skills." But York remained troubled by the implications of using those skills against human beings. York's battalion commander, Major George Edward Buxton, a deeply religious man himself, took a special interest in helping York resolve his moral dilemma. During a private meeting in December 1917, Buxton presented York with a different perspective on military service and Christian duty. "York, I want you to read some passages from the Bible and think carefully about their meaning," Buxton said, handing him a well-worn Bible. "Consider the story of David and Goliath, and think about whether God sometimes calls good men to fight evil." York promised to study the scriptures carefully and pray for guidance about his proper course of action. For weeks, York wrestled with biblical passages and their interpretation, seeking divine guidance about his duty. He read about righteous warfare in the Old Testament, Christ's teachings about peace in the New Testament, and struggled to reconcile seemingly contradictory messages. "Been reading and praying," he told Captain Danforth during another counseling session. "Still ain't clear what the Lord wants me to do." Danforth suggested York take leave to return home and consult with his pastor and family about this crucial decision. "Take 10 days, think it through completely, and come back with your decision." York returned to the Tennessee mountains in January 1918, carrying his rifle and his troubled conscience up familiar trails to a secluded spot where he had always gone to think and pray. For 2 days, he remained alone in the wilderness, reading his Bible, praying intensely, and seeking divine guidance about the most important decision of his life. "Lord, I need to know what you want me to do," he prayed repeatedly while watching sunrise paint the Cumberland Mountains gold. On the second morning, York later claimed, he received clear spiritual guidance that military service could be righteous when defending innocent people from evil aggression. When York returned to Camp Gordon, he reported to Captain Danforth with his decision made. "Captain, I've prayed about this and studied the good book thoroughly. I believe the Lord wants me to serve my country and help stop the Germans from hurting innocent people. Danforth was pleased, but wanted to ensure York was completely certain. "This is a final decision, York? You're prepared to fight?" York nodded firmly. "Yes, sir. I believe this is God's will for me." From that moment forward, York threw himself completely into military training, becoming one of the finest soldiers in his regiment. York's exceptional abilities quickly earned recognition throughout his unit. His marksmanship was legendary. He could consistently hit targets that other soldiers couldn't even see clearly, and his knowledge of fieldcraft and survival skills, learned during years of mountain hunting, made him invaluable for reconnaissance and patrol missions. "York's the best soldier I've ever trained," Sergeant Parsons told other instructors. "He can shoot, he can move silently through any terrain, and he's got natural tactical instincts that can't be taught." The 82nd Division, including York's 328th Infantry Regiment, shipped out for France in April 1918, arriving at a time when German forces were launching their final desperate offensive to win the war before American reinforcements could tip the balance decisively toward the Allies. York wrote home to his mother from the crowded troop transport. "We're heading overseas to do our duty. Pray for us, and don't worry. The Lord will watch over us." The young Tennessee mountain man had no idea he was about to participate in one of the most famous individual actions in military history. After several weeks of additional training in France, learning trench warfare tactics and adjusting to European combat conditions, York's unit moved into quiet sectors of the front line for seasoning and experience. The reality of modern warfare, the constant threat of sudden death from artillery, machine guns, poison gas, and snipers, was far removed from anything York had experienced in the Tennessee mountains. "This ain't like hunting back home," he wrote to Gracie Williams. "Here, everything's trying to kill you all the time." Yet York adapted quickly to combat conditions, his natural caution and hunting skills serving him well in the deadly environment of the Western Front. By September 1918, the 82nd Division had been assigned to participate in the Meuse-Argonne offensive, the massive American-led operation designed to break through German defenses and end the war. The Argonne Forest, where York's regiment would fight, was a nightmarish landscape of dense woods, steep ravines, tangled underbrush, and heavily fortified German positions that had been strengthened over 4 years of war. "The Germans have turned this forest into a fortress," explained Lieutenant Joseph Woods during a pre-attack briefing. "Every hill, every valley, every trail is defended with machine guns, artillery, and wire." On October 7, 1918, York's company participated in an attack against German positions in the Argonne that quickly bogged down under intense machine gun fire from well-concealed positions. The Americans advanced slowly through difficult terrain, taking heavy casualties from German defenders who knew every inch of the ground and had prepared interlocking fields of fire that made direct assault nearly suicidal. York's platoon, led by Sergeant Bernard Early, was assigned to work around the German left flank and attack machine gun nests that were holding up the entire battalion's advance. As York's patrol moved through dense underbrush in the early morning darkness of October 8th, they could hear the distinctive sound of German Maxim machine guns firing almost continuously at their comrades attempting to advance through the valley below. "Them machine guns is cutting our boys to pieces," Early whispered to York as they crawled through tangled brush toward the German positions. "We got to get around behind them and knock them out." The 17-man patrol included soldiers from Tennessee, New York, Pennsylvania, and other states, a diverse group united by the desperate mission they faced. The patrol successfully infiltrated behind German lines through careful movement and York's exceptional woodcraft skills, reaching a position where they could observe German machine gun crews in action. Early deployed his men for a coordinated attack on multiple positions simultaneously. "When I give the signal, we hit them hard and fast," he instructed. "York, you and Williams take that gun position on the right. Make every shot count." York checked his rifle and extra ammunition, knowing that the next few minutes would determine whether his unit lived or died. The American attack achieved complete surprise initially, overwhelming the German rearguard and capturing a significant number of prisoners, including several officers. However, German machine gunners positioned on higher ground quickly spotted the American patrol and began raking their position with devastating fire. Within minutes, Sergeant Early and most of the patrol leaders were killed or wounded, leaving York and a handful of survivors pinned down in a small depression with approximately 20 German prisoners. "Sergeant Early's been hit," shouted Private Percy Beardsley, the only other unwounded American in a position to fight effectively. "York, what do we do now?" York found himself suddenly in command of a desperate situation. Enemy machine guns controlled the high ground above them. German infantry were undoubtedly moving to surround them, and they had prisoners to guard. "Keep them Germans down," York called back to Beardsley. "I'm going to see if I can get them machine guns." What happened next would become the most famous individual action by an American soldier in World War I. York positioned himself where he could engage the German machine gun nests with his rifle while remaining concealed from direct observation. His years of hunting in Tennessee mountains had taught him to judge distances precisely, account for wind and terrain, and make every shot count when ammunition was limited. Just like shooting turkeys back home, he told himself, though the stakes were infinitely higher than any hunting trip. The German machine gunners, approximately 35 yards away on higher ground, could sweep the area where his wounded comrades lay helpless, using tactics learned from hunting wary mountain game. York began systematically engaging the German machine gunners with carefully aimed rifle fire. His first shot killed the machine gun crew leader instantly, causing momentary confusion among the Germans. His second and third shots eliminated other key personnel, temporarily silencing one gun position completely. The Germans quickly realized they were under attack from a highly skilled marksman and began trying to locate and eliminate him while maintaining fire on the other Americans. German Lieutenant Paul Vollmer, commanding the machine gun company that York was single-handedly engaging, recognized the desperate nature of their situation. "There's an American sniper out there picking off our men one by one," he told his sergeant, Friedrich Kubler. "We've got to find him and eliminate him, or he'll destroy our entire position." Kubler had already lost several experienced gunners to the incredibly accurate rifle fire coming from somewhere in the brush below their position. "He's shooting like a hunter, not a soldier," Kubler observed. "Every shot finds its target." York continued his methodical elimination of German machine gun crews, using every skill learned during years of precision shooting in the Tennessee mountains. When German soldiers attempted to rush his position, he switched to his .45 caliber pistol, engaging multiple targets at close range with the same deadly accuracy he demonstrated with his rifle. "Got to get the ones in back first," he told himself, applying hunting wisdom to combat. "If you shoot the lead bird in a flock, the others will scatter. But if you start from the back, you can get more before they realize what's happening." The accuracy and speed of York's shooting began to demoralize the German defenders, who had never encountered anything like his precise marksmanship. Private Heinrich Müller, a veteran machine gunner with 2 years of combat experience, watched in amazement and growing fear as his comrades fell to the American marksman's rifle. "He never misses," Müller told his loader frantically. "Every shot kills someone. How is that possible?" The psychological impact of facing such incredibly accurate fire began to unnerve even experienced German soldiers. As York methodically eliminated German machine gun crews, Lieutenant Vollmer realized his position was becoming untenable. The American marksman had single-handedly neutralized most of his heavy weapons and was preventing his men from effectively engaging other American forces advancing through the valley. "We cannot maintain this position," Vollmer told Sergeant Kubler. "That American is destroying us shot by shot." Kubler agreed grimly. "If we stay here, he'll kill us all eventually. His shooting is impossible to believe." After York had eliminated approximately 20 German soldiers with precise rifle and pistol fire, Lieutenant Vollmer made a desperate decision that would end the engagement in a way no one could have predicted. Rather than continue losing men to York's incredible marksmanship, Vollmer decided to surrender his entire command to prevent further casualties. "I'm going to surrender," he told his remaining men. "This American has defeated us fairly. There's no shame in recognizing superior marksmanship." The German officer stood up, raised his hands, and called out in English, "Don't shoot! We surrender!" York maintained his rifle sight on Vollmer while calling back to his surviving comrades. "They're giving up. Beardsley, can you handle the prisoners we already got?" Beardsley confirmed he could manage the original prisoners, while York dealt with the surrendering machine gun crews. "Come on out with your hands up," York shouted in his Tennessee accent, "and don't try nothing funny." The German soldiers, thoroughly demoralized by York's devastating marksmanship, began emerging from their positions with hands raised. Lieutenant Vollmer approached York personally, speaking in reasonably good English learned before the war. "You are a remarkable soldier," the German officer said with professional respect. "I have never seen such accurate shooting. How many men are with you?" York studied the German officer carefully before answering. "Enough to finish the job if you try any tricks." York was not about to reveal that he was essentially alone, except for the wounded Americans and one other effective fighter. The surrender of Vollmer's machine gun company created an extraordinary situation. York found himself responsible for 132 German prisoners, including several officers, while his unit was deep behind enemy lines with wounded comrades who needed immediate medical attention. "We got to get back to our lines," York told Lieutenant Vollmer, "and you're going to help us do it safely." Vollmer agreed to cooperate fully, recognizing that York's remarkable individual action had legitimately defeated his command according to the accepted rules of warfare. York organized the movement back to American lines with the same tactical intelligence he had demonstrated during the fighting. He positioned the German officers at the front of the column where he could watch them carefully, placed the enlisted prisoners in the middle, and kept his wounded American comrades protected in the center of the formation. "Any of you Germans try anything, and I'll start shooting again," York warned through Vollmer's translation. The German prisoners, having witnessed York's incredible marksmanship firsthand, had no intention of testing his resolve. The march back to American lines proved nearly as dangerous as the original fight, as they had to cross active battlefield areas where both German and American forces might shoot at any moving group. York's knowledge of the terrain, gained during the approach march, proved invaluable in selecting routes that avoided the heaviest fighting while moving toward friendly positions. "Stay close together and do exactly what I tell you," York instructed the entire column through Lieutenant Vollmer's translation. As they approached American lines, York faced the challenge of identifying his group to nervous American sentries who might shoot first and ask questions later. "American patrol with prisoners," York called out when they neared friendly positions. "Don't shoot." "We're Americans with German prisoners." The response from American trenches reflected the disbelief that would characterize reactions to York's story for the rest of his life. "How many prisoners?" called back an American voice. 132, York replied. Major George Edward Buxton, York's battalion commander, was among the first American officers to see the incredible procession arriving at their lines. "York, what in God's name happened out there?" Buxton asked in amazement, looking at the long column of German prisoners being escorted by apparently a single American soldier. York's simple explanation would become famous. "I surrounded them, sir." The understated response in his Tennessee mountain dialect perfectly captured both York's humility and the extraordinary nature of his achievement. The verification of York's story required extensive investigation, as the claims seemed almost impossible to believe. American intelligence officers interviewed the German prisoners separately, examined the battlefield where the action occurred, and pieced together the sequence of events from multiple perspectives. Lieutenant Vollmer's testimony proved crucial in confirming the accuracy of York's account. "This American soldier defeated my entire company single-handedly through superior marksmanship," Vollmer stated formally. "I have never seen such accurate shooting, and I surrendered to prevent further unnecessary casualties among my men." Colonel Douglas MacArthur, who would later become one of America's most famous generals, investigated York's action personally and recommended him for the Medal of Honor. "This Tennessee mountain man has performed the most remarkable individual action of this war," MacArthur wrote in his recommendation. "Single-handedly, he neutralized an entire German machine gun company, killed approximately 20 enemy soldiers, and captured 132 prisoners, including several officers. His marksmanship was so accurate and deadly that the enemy commander surrendered rather than continue losing men." The battlefield evidence supported every aspect of York's story. German bodies were found exactly where he claimed to have shot them. The machine gun positions had been eliminated precisely as he described, and the pattern of casualties reflected the methodical, accurate shooting of a master marksman rather than random combat fire. "The physical evidence is overwhelming," reported Captain Joseph Woods after examining the scene. "This man accomplished something that seems impossible, but the facts are undeniable." News of York's extraordinary action spread rapidly through the American Expeditionary Force and eventually back to the United States, where newspapers sensationalized the story of the Tennessee mountain man who had single-handedly defeated an entire German company. "Tennessee sharpshooter bags 132 Germans," read typical headlines that made York instantly famous throughout America. The publicity embarrassed the humble mountain man, who insisted he had simply done his duty as a soldier. General John J. Pershing, commander of American forces in France, personally decorated York with the Medal of Honor in a ceremony that emphasized the symbolic importance of his action. "Sergeant York represents the finest qualities of the American soldier," Pershing declared during the presentation. "His courage, skill, and determination embody the spirit that will win this war." York accepted the recognition with characteristic humility, saying simply, "I just did what I had to do to help my buddies." The French government also honored York's action, awarding him the Croix de Guerre with Palm and the Médaille Militaire, recognizing that his individual success had significantly contributed to the broader Allied offensive in the Argonne. Marshal Ferdinand Foch personally congratulated York, stating, "What you have accomplished will be remembered as long as military history is studied." The international recognition further emphasized the extraordinary nature of York's achievement. York's action had strategic as well as tactical significance. The elimination of the German machine gun company allowed American forces to advance through that sector of the Argonne, contributing to the broader success of the offensive that would ultimately end the war. York's action broke open our entire attack in that area, explained Colonel Wilder Penfield, the regimental commander. Those machine guns had stopped our advance completely until he eliminated them. After the armistice ended fighting on November 11, 1918, York became one of the most celebrated American heroes of the war. His story was told in newspapers, magazines, books, and eventually Hollywood movies, making him a national symbol of American courage and marksmanship. However, York himself remained uncomfortable with the attention, preferring to return quietly to his Tennessee mountains and the simple life he had known before the war. York's post-war life demonstrated the same character he had shown during his military service. He used his fame and the money earned from endorsements and speaking engagements to establish schools and improve education in his impoverished region of Tennessee. The children in these mountains deserve better opportunities, York explained to supporters of his educational foundation. Learning is more important than fighting. The man who had achieved fame through deadly marksmanship devoted the rest of his life to peaceful pursuits that would benefit future generations. The legacy of Alvin York's extraordinary action on October 8, 1918, extends far beyond military history. His story represents the transformation of an individual who overcame profound moral conflict to serve his country effectively, demonstrated that exceptional individual action can influence major historical events, and showed how famous heroes can use their recognition to benefit society. York's combination of deadly skill, moral courage, and humble character made him an enduring American icon whose story continues to inspire people facing their own moral challenges and duties to country and conscience.